Let's take a look at the markets here, and the key takeaway right now is the NASDAQ, where we see that the NASDAQ, I think this is going to be the 4th or 5th day in a week where the NASDAQ is intraday moving above 7411.48. So this is the big takeaway, whether we are going to break out successfully or whether we are going to fail again. The last couple of days, the NASDAQ has been unable to close above that price. So that's the key. There's pretty much, in my opinion, no other way to look at this is the NASDAQ, and whether the NASDAQ can successfully break out above this monthly closing high. That is the battlefield right now, in my opinion. Something that we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks. Whether the NASDAQ can break out. It's going to be a big deal as long as it can hold above 7411.48. A breakout above that price introduces the idea and the expectation that this market has a tremendous upside. Failure to hold that price, and again, let me repeat, this is going to be the 4th or the 5th day over the last week where the NASDAQ has intraday moved above this price, only not to close above. In other words, there have been failed daily breakout attempts when trying to hold above this price. So another failed breakout starts introducing the idea that this market is running out of juice. And the more it fails, the more we can expect lower prices. Which brings me to the point that I'm trying to bring across here. This is the S&P 500 daily, and you can see that pretty much what we are doing is coming back to test this break, the break that brings us off the highs for the S&P 500 before this substantial drop. So what we've done is pretty much come back and test that level, and still trading within that test range. So last week we tried to move above this level. The market was rejected at this point. So if the S&P 500 is to see higher prices, the first order of business would be to take out this line. Failure to move above that line on a day-to-day basis suggests that we are still within a market that might be trapping people to go long before it drops. Take a look at the S&P 500 hourly. A little bit different from the Russell 2000, which I'll show you here in a second. S&P 500 is not breaking out, unlike the NASDAQ. Now, take a look at the S&P 500 5-minute chart. And I think this is telling us, so on the 5-minute window, we can see that S&P 500 is still within what could be a resistance band, even at the highs of the day. If we take the top side of the 5-minute chart, you see we've come back to test the top. And there's also another short-term line based on this break here. And I'm using this break because this break of the RSI corresponds with this movement here. So let me change colors here so we don't get confused. So this break here corresponds with the RSI break there, which corresponds with coming off the highs. So what we can do is take that information and draw our uniformity resistance line. Should be like that. And you can see that this resistance band gave us that short-term high. We stalled again on the line for that short-term high intraday. And here we are again testing that line. So it would only make sense if this also turns into resistance, if it is confirmed. Otherwise, short-term, for the market to move and surge beyond the current levels, it definitely needs to take out those two lines. We shall see. Right now, looks like this is turning into resistance. The reason why I say that, you can see the market is turning a little bit down on a 5-minute chart. And so the two lines, again, line number 1 and line number 2 are coming in play. And what I'm getting at here is this could still be where we see resistance and the market still stalls. Now, of course, the key is going to be that NASDAQ either breaking out or failing to break out. That's going to be the key. The NASDAQ right now is the one that is pretty much telegraphing what to expect. And the level to watch, it's a big one, 7411.48. Anything above that means that you have all the reason in the world to be bullish and expect higher prices. Failure to break out means that you have good reason. After repeated daily breakout attempts, you would have good reason, if this stalls, to expect lower prices. So as we trade at the highs of the day, let's watch the Russell 2000 hourly, because it is coming close to the end of this trading hour. And again, we are 5 minutes before the close of this hour, as you can see there, and the next hour might change the dynamics based on the Russell 2000 hourly chart, where we can see that it is pretty much coming back to test the top side of the RSI. So depending on how things go over the next couple of hours, if this is confirmed as resistance, then that is where we can expect a pullback on the Russell, pullback in the general market. And also don't forget, there is this emerging idea that we are pushing to fresh highs, but there is a possibility of negative divergence on the RSI, and if that negative divergence is maintained, then of course this is where we start expecting a pullback. Of course, all this is contingent on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ would have to fail to hold above 7411.48. If one is to be bearish, this is a requirement. The NASDAQ would have to be below 7411.48. One more quick observation on the Russell. We can see here that the Russell also has a MACD that could also be forming negative divergence, even as the Russell surges higher on this hourly chart right here. So let me conclude the video here with two lines on the S&P 500 5-minute chart. Line number 1 that is being tested, and then line number 2, which corresponds with the RSI top line. Failure for the S&P 500 to move above the line again suggests that intraday, this is where we are going to peak out and start drifting lower. And of course, if the market is to blast even higher, we would need to take out those two lines. I would expect the NASDAQ to struggle. For some reason, I still lean to a market that is going to struggle, but let's rely on the market, not on my opinion. As long as the NASDAQ is breaking out, we have to respect the upside. If the NASDAQ cannot hold this price and move back below that number, 7411.48, then we can really be looking and expecting a market to start pulling back and potentially for a significant pullback. Eric Mother@mother.com. As always, good luck, peace, and blessings. EACS.